The wind howled outside, rattling the windows of the old cabin. I huddled in the corner, clutching the flickering candle to my chest. It was supposed to be a weekend getaway with friends, a chance to escape the hustle and bustle of the city. But now, as I listened to the eerie creaks and groans of the cabin, I couldn't help but feel a growing sense of unease. We had arrived at the cabin on Friday afternoon, laughing and joking as we unpacked our bags. The place was remote, surrounded by dense woods that seemed to stretch on forever. It was peaceful at first, the tranquility of the wilderness a welcome change from the constant noise of the city. We spent the first night playing board games and sharing stories around the crackling fireplace. But then, on the second night, things took a strange turn. It was around midnight when we heard the first sound, a soft, distant whisper that sent shivers down my spine. At first, we dismissed it as the wind playing tricks on us, but as the whispers grew louder, we realized they were coming from within the cabin. Nervously, we searched the cabin, checking every nook and cranny, but found nothing. The whispers seemed to echo from the walls themselves, as if the very wood was conspiring against us. We laughed it off, blaming it on exhaustion and our overactive imaginations. But deep down, the unease remained. As the night wore on, the whispers turned into hushed conversations just out of earshot. We strained to make out the words, but they remained elusive. Sleep was out of the question, and we huddled together in the living room, the dim light of the fireplace casting dancing shadows on the walls. Then came the footsteps. They were soft at first, almost imperceptible. But gradually they grew louder, echoing through the cabin with a purposeful rhythm. We froze, our eyes locked on the cabin's entrance. The footsteps drew closer, their sound methodical and deliberate. I felt a cold sweat forming on my brow as I realized that whatever was creating those footsteps was not something I could rationalize away. Without a word, we barricaded ourselves in the living room, pushing furniture against the doors and windows. The cabin felt like a fortress, our last line of defense against an unseen enemy. The footsteps circled the cabin, growing louder and more insistent. It was as if whatever was out there was toying with us, playing a twisted game of cat and mouse. Hours passed and the night grew darker. The wind outside intensified, its howls now a symphony of terror. And then, just as suddenly as they had started, the footsteps ceased. The cabin fell silent, the only sound the pounding of my heart in my chest. We dared to hope that it was over, that whatever had haunted us had moved on. But as the first rays of dawn broke through the windows, illuminating the room in an eerie half-light, we knew we were wrong. Scrawled across the cabin's walls were words that sent a chill down my spine. I found you. The letters were jagged and uneven, as if they had been written in a frenzy. Panic surged within me, and I realized that there was no escaping this nightmare. We gathered our belongings in a hurry, not bothering to fold clothes or pack properly. The cabin, once a haven, now felt like a prison closing in around us. As we made our way to the door, a creaking sound caught our attention. The walls themselves seemed to be moving, shifting and contorting as if they were alive. In a blind rush, we burst out of the cabin, stumbling into the blinding light of day. The forest that had seemed so peaceful before now felt like a labyrinth of terror. We ran, branches tearing at our skin, as the cabin's walls seemed to stretch and reach for us as if unwilling to let us go. We didn't stop until we reached the road, gasping for breath and covered in dirt. We looked back at the cabin, its wooden walls now still and innocent in the morning sun. It was as if the nightmare had never happened, as if we had all shared a collective hallucination. But the scars remained, both on our bodies and in our minds. We never spoke of that night again, but the memory of those whispers, footsteps, and the chilling message on the walls haunted us for years to come. The cabin, once a place of refuge, had become a place of unspeakable horror, an experience that had forever changed us, reminding us that sometimes the most terrifying monsters are the ones that dwell within the shadows of our own minds.